I'm just sharing a wee insight from today's Voicework session, and after thinking about the check-in of where I was at before starting, how my voice was feeling, and what my intention was, I came to start the session, and it felt quite important to come into that reflective space, just to give myself a little bit more of a gentle start today. And then two useful questions came up, which I later took a note of. And one of them was, what do I need today? So I was really asking that to myself, because that felt like a clear and easy way to stimulate a response within me. And the answer to that was space. And then after that, the next question was, how can I help you? Not how can I help me, how can I help you? And just that very slight shift on emphasis there, I felt that was more of an invitation for maybe the part of me that I think there's an element of, when we self-identify and take on that kind of responsibility, we can very easily get into that micro-analysis, like, how can I help me? That could very easily escalate in a session for me from, well, there's this, and this, and then actually I have lots of things there that are not very helpful potentially, and are more an analysis or a kind of hypercritical voice coming in. So how can I help you? I felt that was just naturally the question that came forward, and straight away internally I received a response to that, which was listen. And that felt really helpful today. So I kind of took those two elements alongside my intention for the session. And yeah, what did I need? Space. And how can I help with that? Listen. So there's that idea of calling in support from different archetypes within yourself there. And another thing I just wanted to share, which I thought was worth to pull out and just unpick a little bit, I just took a note of some disruptive thoughts that I was experiencing whilst I was in my kind of early stages of the session, and I was doing a lot of stretching and vocalizing to accompany that. So I was working with the breath, sounding with the breath, and actually starting to do a bit of groaning and keening and sighing, and just very, very gently working with sounding and moving out of speech quality with the voice. And that just felt like where I needed to begin today. Also just to mention that I was aware I'm in my cycle, so having that sensitivity, everything's a little bit more soft right now, and just taking that into account. So I was going for a really gentle time, and felt like there needed to be a bit of nurturing in that process. So the disruptive thoughts that were coming up to kind of add their contribution to my session were, you aren't doing anything. You could have done this at home, and this isn't practice. So, yes, all insightful, all interesting, all relevant in terms of the intention I came in with, and also perhaps the emotional space that I was kind of starting from. But I just wanted to unpack those a bit, because they are, common things that are experienced by lots of people at different points in their creative process, in their practice, in whatever it is. It doesn't have to be specific to voice work, but I just liked this one. You aren't doing anything. This is because I was on the floor. I was being gentle to myself. I was being nice and kind and trying to listen to my body, honor the fact that I was moving a bit slower today, that my energy levels are not peak, and not to shame that, but just to work with it and go, okay, like, this is where we are. So that looked very, slow and very exploratory and quite tentative at points, where I was just listening to what my needs were. So I can say now, in reflection, having worked through for 90 minutes and explored lots of different things, I can swipe that one away, because that was almost just like a little niggle there as I was actually actively in a process with something, exploring something that was trying to undermine that. So at the time, was it a pleasant experience to have that thought coming in? Not really, but I kept going anyway. You could have done this at home. I'm in a practice space today, and that one got me a little bit, because I was kind of thinking about the fact that I was doing quite gentle work and kind of quite vulnerable and intimate, and then I was kind of questioning myself, like, would I have done this at home? Would I have had this particular session at home? Would I have shown up in the same way for myself as I have done, because I've got access to a space that's taking me into a different frame of mind, and that there's travel involved, I have to get there, I was like, okay, no, it would have been, there might have been elements of that would have been crossing over, but it wouldn't have been the same session by any means. And it's true, I can do these things at home, but I had to kind of knock that one on the head by being like, well, I've shown up for myself today. And that's kind of the crux in that one, I think, is you need to really, really give yourself that moment of reflection and considering, like, okay, I am in my practice space right now. I am like in my power hour, or whatever space you have available to you. You've taken time, you've created that room for you to connect and explore, and that is enough. That is enough. So that one, it kind of got me, but I'm going to swipe that one away as well. And the final one, the creme de la creme, this isn't practice. This was coming quite quickly after, you aren't doing anything, this isn't practice, nah. Like, that's the kind of quality of backdrop that I was kind of working with as I was gently moving into stretching and sounding and just kind of processing, asking myself, like, how am I feeling? What's going on? And that one ties in as well, I think, to this idea of you have shown up, you have taken time, you have taken space. This is not about being perfect. This is not about necessarily having to tick off and hit this massive goal within the session time. Practice as it relates to vocal exploration, it's almost like I want to reclaim that word and say, you know, voice work is the practice. It is a philosophy, it is a way of thinking about voice, it is a space that you come into to connect. So it in itself, it is a practice. And this idea of practicing, studying, or, you know, being in a kind of rigid framework of needing to meet a certain target or goal, I feel is not necessarily helpful. You know, when you come in to start your session and you're asking yourself, you know, before voice work, how am I feeling? What's going on? How is my voice today? What is my intention? That is going to guide and inform how you show up for yourself and what kind of space you feel you need to hold, and maybe certain things that you feel would be helpful for you to explore. And the practice is inviting yourself into that miniature journey for however long you have. So that one, it's like semantics here about this word of practice, but as to where that came from, you know, I've been through the kind of the rigid and formal educational frameworks that, you know, it kind of creates a little bit of fear around those words, like you must practice and you must do this and and there's a time and a place for that, certainly, but the energy of that is not something that I was taking into my space today. So it was interesting how that kind of came up as a sort of, yes, another way to try and undermine what I was doing, which was actually my voice work practice. So just a bit of a few thoughts there on those things, and I just wanted to share because I feel like it is helpful to come into that ability to reframe, like when we're going to our final check-in, how am I after voice work, what did I explore, any observations, you know, just to also kind of hark back to where we were when we came in, and some of the things that came up, you know, check in. Is that helpful? Was that disruptive? Was that a useful insight? And just starting to kind of take on board what is being revealed to you through the time that you create to connect with your voices, you know, because it's not just about how the body's feeling and what you're sounding, but also, you know, what is being stirred up in your kind of spiritual awareness or your connection with that aspect of yourself, and also what thoughts are percolating, what's there, you know, what needs to be explored, what's helpful, what is disruptive. So I just wanted to share that, jumping off of another video that I did in my last session, just, you know, realizing that it's important to talk about these elements as well, because they are common and they do come up for everybody at some point. So I hope that's been useful, and yeah, wishing you well in your practice time, play practice time.